I survived just 16 months in my first job. I had a very difficult senior, a lot of learnings in KPMG. I grew up to be a partner, then ex-head of KPMG. He left and some of us joined him. Look at some of the Western countries, right? You have a lot of these specialized boutique firms that are doing fantastic. They have only one challenge after 2 decades, it's the succession challenge. When we informed our clients, right, barring few, I think everybody signed up with us. And then in year 3, you had Singapore. And Singapore actually added 15 to 16 more people. So suddenly we were like 50 people. Just before this event, I came out of a meeting where the client was asking me the same question, when are you coming in Dubai? And I said, just give us few months. Some stage what happens, money stops being a motivator. Then you want to make an impact, you want to say, let's do something different. Let's build a team, let's build a brand, and I would use the word, like shake the market.
Vishal, like why did you start in tax advisory? How did KPMG happen? You were earlier also with PwC, then how did Dhruva happen? Okay, just a little bit of a background.
I actually, qualified some 24 years back in 2020, and for the first 2 years of my post-qualification era, I was actually doing hardcore audits, statutory audits. But I think very quickly I realized that this is not what I want to do. And in our times, and when I say our times, I'm talking about 24 years back, but I'm telling you it's a generation apart, compared to the options available today. You had very limited options. So you had the big fours, then you had the legal option, and right, then you go to industry. So the options were quite limited, and I was very keen that let me work in a larger organization. And I was very keen to do international tax. So I think that's how I joined PwC in September 2002, right? That was my first job after working for 2 years as a qualified in my audit firm. I survived just 16 months in my first job. I had a very difficult senior, and so much depends on the team you are in whenever you join a large organization. And then I moved out, and I was very lucky to get into a firm known as Ratan S. Mama, which was, in short, known as RSM, not the RSM of today. That's an international brand, but there used to be an Indian RSM. In my view, that was the best tax firm I've ever worked. What a partnership, what talent, what trainings. It was just amazing. It was the best of Indian way of working, for international clients. And I was really learning, enjoying. Unfortunately, at some stage, my bosses decided to sell their tax practice to PwC. So in 3 years, I was back into PwC. But I think by that time, things had changed. I was at a different level. PwC had become very dynamic. While it was known as an audit organization, I think it was doing great in tax in those days. And somewhere after working 3 years in PwC, I think many of my bosses, after the Satyam accounting, scandal, for some reason they left and they joined KPMG. So there was an en masse exit of some 19 partners, 200 people, all going to KPMG, and I was just happy working with the team. So really, I just got attached, and I kind of reached KPMG, and I thought this could be the same Big Four, right? But every Big Four is very, very different per se. But again, a lot of learnings in KPMG. I grew up to be a partner there. I had a short stint in Gujarat. So the KPMG management sent me to Gujarat to set up their Ahmedabad office, and which in my view was one of the best opportunities by default. You get to set your own office, you select your people, you select a team, and you are building a business and all. But I think at some stage after I became a partner and all, I was missing, the adventure, the entrepreneurship, which comes with doing something of your own. And I think luckily, the then ex-head of KPMG, he left and some of us joined him, and that's how Dhruva came. Dhruva is actually an acronym of 5 founding partners, DHRVA. So I was the V of Dhruva. Again, we had some great 6 years, in Dhruva, and unfortunately, the partnership couldn't survive. So all the other co-founders left, went their own way. I also left along with the 3 of the other partners, and somewhere in 2020, like we started Otis. So that's a journey, I would say. And I think post 2014, after I had spent almost 12 years in Big Four, the whole idea was that can we create a different firm outside the large organization, and find that professional joy, of building a firm, of working in a firm. Not that the large firms don't offer you, but obviously they have their own direction, which is set, right? You can't change that direction. So you don't get the flexibility or the authority to reset that direction. So you have no choice, but to really move into a smaller firm and try to build something which is different per se.
So well explained, and I didn't know you were the V in Dhruva. So that's really exciting and good to know. So, what opportunity did you see in India or the global market overall or combined that you decided that, hey, you know what, it's time to start something of your own?
I think, post 2014, after I had spent almost 12 years in Big Four, the whole idea was that can we create a different firm outside the large organization and find that professional joy, of building a firm, of working in a firm. Not that the large firms don't offer you, but obviously they have their own direction, which is set, right? You can't change that direction. So you don't get the flexibility or the authority to reset that direction. So you have no choice, but to really move into a smaller firm and try to build something which is different per se. So yes, that's how it is. Actually, there are four co-founders of Otis. So fortunately, I and three of my other partners, Rutul, Shah, Zeel Jambuwala, and Jay Parmar, we all came together and we thought let's try to fulfill an unfinished framework, which I thought we wanted to build in my previous organization, which we couldn't build in. But one thing was very sure that the tax market was expanding. Number one, the complexity was increasing. You hardly had any names beyond the big six. And so if you count some of the firms, right, you will stop at 15, 16. You'll struggle to. It's a market which is dominated by very few brands, which itself is an opportunity. And also, what happens is when you look at some of the Western countries, right, you have a lot of these specialized boutique firms, which are very small, right? Some are 10 people, some are 50 people, some are 100 people. They are very, very small compared to the other larger organizations, but they are doing fantastic. Same recovery rates, niche work, very satisfied clientele. They have only one challenge after 2 decades, it's the succession challenge, which somewhere the large firms do not have because of their structure. So I think we saw a great opportunity to, I would say, tap into this non-big six territory, number one. Second is all of us were young, right? So sometimes if you fail, right, sometimes that itself is a safety net. If you are 50, we are very careful. We said, we can't fail. But if you're in your 30s or your early 40s, you said, let's try it out for a few years. And if you fail, you go back, being employees in large organizations, So we all felt, let's try it out. Right. And see, at some stage, what happens, money stops being a motivator. I think we all earn somewhere where we are now doing well off. Then you want to make an impact, You want to say, let's do something different. Let's build a team. Let's build a brand. And I would use the word, like shake the market. So I do think there is a lot of scope, a lot of untapped opportunities outside the large firms. And I think the client is actually waiting for some of these firms to, come up on the platform per se. So it was this sheer opportunity. There is also one more way. What happens is that I don't think in India, while we speak a lot about building the right firm with the right culture, I still feel that we do not have enough examples of, a firm with the right culture, with the right partnership framework, with the right longevity, right? Because after 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, the firms get wrapped up. So we said that, can we build something which will last beyond us, right? So it's also a dream we have. So we had some of these common vision and opportunity and aspiration and unfinished agenda. And we all four, along with, obviously, there were many who said, we'd also like to join you, came together. And yes, voila, 4 years have got completed. It just seemed as if we started, yesterday. We started with what, four partners, 12 to 14 people. Today we are touching 70, 75 people, and our aim is to cross 100 by this financial year end. And the only thing which is stopping us is this whole talent crunch, what we are seeing in the market.
That's amazing to know. So, how do you think this market has evolved in the last 3 to 4 years? Like, how has it technically evolved? And how has a client's perception to consulting, to advisory services shifted? How has it changed?
That's a very good question. And see, what happens is, if you look at audit, right, audit tends to be a very branded business. If you say, I'm being audited by ABC, and these ABC and company may be of the same big four vintage, right? But still the market would say, oh, who's ABC? It has to be one of the big fours or the big six. But tax is actually a value-added business. Nobody wants to proclaim to the world that, what, I'm being advised by X, Y, Z, or I'm being advised by Otis or any other firm. There could be certain niche areas, like if you're doing a due diligence for a transaction, right? You need a big four due diligence report. right? But you can still be advised by a small boutique high-end firm, which are very specialized guys and who give personal time per se. So I think this is the distinguishing factor probably, where uh, we believe that tax does not depend on whether you are 1,000 people or you are 100 people or you are 50 people. Of course, some size is necessary. In my view, it's very difficult to be a full service tax firm in 5, 10, 15, 20 people. We quickly realized that, and we thought the optimum size is actually 100 people in this country because of the complexity. But beyond that, it doesn't matter how big or large or small you are. The clients, I think the market has become mature. The clients are realizing that sometimes a 5-member firm can actually give a better advice, right, than a very large organization. So it's become a one-to-one dealing with the client, and they don't care whether they had heard about that brand before or not. But on your question about these 15 tax compliance firms, I'm pretty sure there would be many, many good tax firms in the country. But what these tax firms have not done is to create a brand. Because as Indian professionals, we tend to glorify the professional more than the firm. Which means when that professional retires or goes into sunset, right, the firm collapses it. And you will actually see this happening again and again and again. And what we want to do is that, the firm has to become bigger than the founders and each of the partners. And when that becomes, right, you have achieved your purpose. So in that respect, very few firms have been able to brand themselves. And, our aim is to really come in that top 10 to 12 firms, outside the big four, which people would recollect, in a minute, saying that, yes, this is one of the better tax firms. So I think that's where we are trying to make a mark. Use the same old school of giving better services, personalized services, get the best talent, but more importantly, position the firm rather than the professionals. Let's see, it's an experiment we are trying.
That's fantastic. Cool. So now, Vishal, talking about Otis, how did you start and scale? So take us through it year by year, services by service, and clients by clients, and of course the challenges in between.
We all had resigned pre-COVID. So when we were out of the firm, actually COVID had already hit. So it was a very interesting thing. We said, how will we reach out to the market? How we will meet one-to-one? But luckily, what happened was that when we informed our clients, right, barring few, I think everybody signed up with us. And I think which was a proof that tax tends to be a very sticky business. If they are happy, they don't really care under what brand you are launching. They would just like to work with you and the same team, etc. So this was something I would say we were quite lucky, in most of the clients supporting us. So if you ask me what capital I put in, I put in a capital of 1,000 rupee. That is a fact. And I gave a temporary loan of 50 lakhs, which my other partner who manages finance gave me back after a few months. And by God's grace, we never had a scenario where I had to put any more money. So I think it's absolutely a journey which has been supported due to our clients and our people coming in. And then the question was about expansion, and see, we have been very conservative. It took us 4 years to reach 70, 75 people, add 2 more offices. So I wouldn't say it's a great leap, candidly. We have just been very, very cautious. When to hire more people, when to build more offices. The banks refused to give us overdraft because we never used them. It was destiny. And we just did the right thing. We just focused on our work. See, we are not great marketers. So one of the weak points we have in Otis is that we don't have great marketers. There are some competitors we have, right, where a couple of their guys are superb. They will be out in the market. You will see them running all around on LinkedIn. But I think we are good executors. We give good content, we give good service, we give good advice. We are innovators, we are ideators. That's our strong point. And the way we have grown is by one client referring us to another, that second client referring us to third. So we've actually grown very organically, per se. So we have stick to our strength. That's our approach, right? We said don't do anything different. I think we started with, as I mentioned, 12 to 14 people in year 1. Year 2, we were around 20 people. Year 3, I think we had touched 35. And then in year 3, you had Singapore. And Singapore actually added 15 to 16 more people. So suddenly we were like 50 people. And maybe in the last 12 months, we would have again added, I would say, 15 to 20 more people. That's how we have. So we have, in a way, grown quite systematically, I would say. The first 2.5 years were all working through WeWorks of the world and all. And at some stage, we felt COVID is gone. Let's move into our own offices. So we got our Ahmedabad office first, which happened around 18 months back. Then we got our Bombay office. Then in Singapore, when Singapore happened, they moved into their own office. Delhi, we are now moving into our own office. GIFT City is still co-working center, etc. And I think in my view, one thing which I believe is we keep track of our attrition, how many people leave us and where are they going. I think in the last 4.5 years, barring two people, nobody has joined competition. None of the senior guys ever joined competition. So people left because they were changing countries or they were changing profession. Like I had an amazing guy in Bombay, he wanted to go into law, or they were joining their family business, or they wanted to maybe do something of their own. So a couple of my ex-Otis members are doing their own CA practice, etc. So we were very happy that the culture has kept the attrition rate less, because I think that's very important for a startup. It can't lose people. Right now that we are touching 70, we don't mind if we lose 4 or 5 people, but for the right reasons, right? Because we have a run rate to catch up and all. And if you look at our revenues, again, it grew quite stable. Like on a lighter note, I may not be able to share the real numbers, but I can tell you my projections, and we were way, way wrong. We thought that our first year projection was 4 crore, and how wrong we were. We were terribly, terribly, terribly under projected, right? I felt that none of the partners may earn any serious money for the first 2 years, but we started earning right from the first 30 days. We actually came up with an interesting profit units concept for all the employees, which of course we had dismantled due to some reason, and we are thinking of reintroducing in some form. But our first 2 year bonuses were as high as 35 to 45%, right? Because we had less overhead, we had great revenues. So we thought we will have to sacrifice from a monetary perspective, but I thought all of us were pretty happy with the way it turned out. you know we came up with some innovative policies, like so we today as we speak, we don't have a fixed number of days of leave. We call it a reasonable leave policy, right? So some people may take 30-35 days, some people may take 20 days, some people, let's say it's a marriage year for them, they'll take 40 days. We are fine with that. We don't really count. So it's a bit of a flexible era. Of course, now that we become large, we are relooking at every policy, right? Because certain policies work when you are small, they have to be recalibrated when you are becoming bigger and a larger team, etc. So I think we did a lot of these experiments. Few experiments succeeded, few experiments badly failed. So we quickly, U-turned it, etc. per se. So it's been a very, very learning-full journey, I would say. That's it.
Can you tell us a little bit about the kind of services you provide? Because when you say tax compliance, it's pretty wide. That's one. And how do you look at the opportunities in, say, Gift City?
We have 8 to 9 strategic teams actually, right? So while Otis looks like one business, it's actually 8 to 9 business in aggregate. So, for example, one is a Singapore business, which is absolutely separate. The way you will take decisions will be different. Then you have the typical corporate tax and international, that's one wing. Then you have M&A tax, which is the transaction tax business, which is another wing. Then you have the regulatory, where we do a lot of work under FEMA, RBI, SEBI related work. That's the regulatory business. 2 years back, we did a very good thing of actually taking an initiative on the Gift City. Right. And I think on the India-Singapore corridor, we have a lot of visibility on the Gift City. The kind of publications we came up with, the alerts we sent to some of our clients and all. So Gift City again is a separate vertical where we will do everything in terms of setting up funds, family offices, advising them on the right financial structures of people coming into Gift City from outside and Indian entities coming into Gift City to venture abroad, etc. And then you have a very important wing, which is the GST customs. That's where, when Ritesh and team came in a year back, I think it really made us complete, right? Because we were very strong on the direct tax, corporate tax, international tax, M&A tax, regulatory, but we were not so strong on the indirect tax. We had a wonderful director who continues to work with us, Chintan, who held the fort for long. But with Ritesh, Mithika, Keval coming in, they came from a very well-known law firm. I think we could offer a full suite of GST, foreign trade, customs, litigation services per se. So that's again, it's one of our fastest growing division after they coming in. So we have these 8 to 9 businesses within Otis. I'll tell you where we have started becoming good. We have started becoming good in knowing where we are not good at, right? So for example, we don't focus a lot on due diligence because due diligence is a very branded business. We have decided not to have valuations. While valuation is complementary to M&A, we just felt, we'll have our valuation partners with whom we'll work. In spite of a lot of pressure from clients, we have not ventured into audits. We know our strength is tax. Expert services. So, if a client has 200 experts coming in, we know we will never get that project. It's always going to go to a big four. So there are few areas where we have realized that there is no point in competing with the large firms, right? So we have stuck to the areas where we think we can compete on equal footings. So I think there we are becoming better, where not to invest time because you have limited time, limited resources. So let's not waste in where you are not. And yes, one area which I forgot is transfer pricing, right? So this is one where we are building it up quite nicely, investing more. We are expecting a pillar two wave coming in from next financial year, etc. So this is again, while it's a smaller piece compared to some of the other divisions, I think that's something which is our focus. Where a area which we never anticipated growth and which has actually become one of our mainstay is the family office, the private client service, which is private trusts, succession planning, HNI planning. I don't think we ever planned for it. By default, it has become one of our pillars of the practice. It's almost as big as our M&A tax practice. So suddenly we are handling, more than 50 to 60 families, very large, very well-known families in the country. So this is something which we want to spin it off. So what we've actually come up with is a separate positioning for our family office, which what we call it Otis Aspire. There we intend to build in a separate team, a team which has a bit of a separate DNA of serving individuals compared to the other teams, which are more well-versed with serving corporates. So we will have Otis Consulting for corporates, and the third big pillar will be litigation. So that's how we are looking at how the next 3 years will shape up per se.
That's amazing. So whoever I speak to, they say family offices are huge, huge, huge. They say it's a big opportunity. From what I understand, everything related to tax is what you guys are expert at, including provide services, including compliance and regulatory, and that's under different verticals. How are the margins in this industry? Is it very competitive?
So I'll answer the simple question first. The margins are what you want, right? So you can pay at 10% and you can pay at 40%, right? Position yourself. So we are very clear that this has to be our minimum margins. So we don't go for top line. Like, in my big four avatar, top line used to be very important. Nobody would look at the bottom line, right? Bottom line would somewhere be taken care of at the top. But here, the top line is irrelevant. We are saying whatever work we do has to be a profitable assignment, and it can't be a 10% margin clearly. So I think in high-end services, the gross margins are quite decent, and you need those gross margins because the investment in more talent, the investment in more resources is significant. Talent is actually becoming costlier and costlier. That's a bigger thing. So I would say the gross margins are pretty decent. It would be 30 to 40% for any consulting firm, worth its name.
How do you think AI would play a role in whatever you're doing?
We have been debating ourselves internally. I think we have a blueprint ready. Which we intend to maybe launch next year. There is a thought of, can we do something like Otis Digital? But then that will require a lot of investments. I think that's one business where we will not be able to bootstrap, unlike the tax practice, because you'll have to invest a lot in technology. But I think currently we are still in a phase where we are exploring, will AI be used to enhance the effectiveness of our services? Answer is absolutely yes. But will it also be used as a product in itself? Right. And I think that's a big market where I don't see any comparable product being launched in India. I'll give an example. A client comes and asks us, I want to do a business. Should I do it in my personal name? Should I do it in a LLP? Should I do it in a company? It looks a very simple answer. But when you start building in the permutation, you can actually come up with 7, 8 options, right? And it can actually take you a day and a half to come up with a deliverable, saying that in your case, option 2A is the best answer. Now, all these, we can actually create algorithms in Excel and actually answer it in 1 hour instead of spending 1.5 days, right? So it's all possible. So I don't even think we are looking at AI. A simple algorithm itself can actually change our business model significantly. But what AI will do will actually be amazing, because let's look at transfer pricing, right? Can it rewrite the transfer pricing report at least up to 80%? And then a human intervention comes and they complete the balance 20%. I think these are the technologies which we are looking for. And I don't think we'll be able to develop these technologies, right? So we'll have to use a technology somewhere from outside and then use our internal knowledge, right? Come up with a product per se. My personal view, with the kind of work we are doing, AI is still 3 years away, at least. So we are currently looking at AI more to use maybe internally. There is some experimentation happening and see whether we can come up with a faster deliverable. That's our focus for the next 12 to 24 months.
So well explained. The next one is, do you plan to start an office in Dubai?
Just before this event, I came out of a meeting where the client was asking me the same question, when are you coming in Dubai? And I said, just give us a few months, The decision has been made. We've identified a set of talent. The whole point is, who's the leader? Because you need a local leader per se, right? So I think as soon as we identify a local leader, we'll be there in Dubai. So it's a question of when we will be in Dubai rather than whether we will be in Dubai. And we clearly will complete this triangular axis between India, Dubai, and Singapore. It actually fits us well. Then the last piece which will remain is the US, because at some stage we want to be in US, but that's a more complicated market, require huge pockets. So that's something we might try after a couple of years. But Dubai is something which is in the horizon, I would say. Singapore happened my sheer luck, I would put it that way, right? I used to travel to Singapore every quarter, and there was a team, which was part of a large organization. For some reason, they broke off, and they had just started. It was a new name for 2 weeks, and we were having dinner, and we just said that how do you want to take it forward, right? And we both agreed in that dinner that let's combine the practice. Uh, Within a week, we formalized everything. We announced it. And obviously, it was a bit of a satirical situation. They were running ABC, then for 15 days, they were XYZ. And after 15 days, they were Otters, right? So there was a bit of a confusion in the market. It's only Shakespeare who said, what's in a name? Name is very important to a client. But it was a sheer coincidence. And we could do that fast because we have worked together. Like Mahip, my partner in Singapore, he was actually my ex-boss in Ratan S. Mama. He was one of the 4 managers I used to report to. Amazing guy, superb as an individual, technically very sound. And when he came out of, I would say Dhruva Singapore, and he set up his own for a couple of weeks. We just met one day and we said, let's do it. So it was a sheer luck, I would say. I don't think it was planned. Now, when I look back, I thought it was a fantastic decision because as Otis India and Otis Singapore, I think the synergies have been amazing. Probably we are the only firm which act as a single firm, because in Big Fours, what happens? The ownership of the Indian firm lies with the Indian partners, and the ownership of the Singapore firm lies with the Singapore partner. So sometimes you act like a franchisee. You are affectionate towards each other, but your interests are not aligned completely. But if you work as a single organization, then the manner in which you will approach a problem, a project, a client is extremely different. It's like McKinsey, right? McKinsey is a single partnership in the world.
Yep.
So I think that's where I would say the Singapore venture has been extremely synergistic for both us as India and I'm sure Mahip in Singapore, because clients are really loving this model. And that's what we want to do it with Dubai, where we quickly set up Otis Dubai. So you're actually covering a very nice axis between Dubai, Singapore, and India.
You talk about the US, right? You just look at the US. Advisory firms are being acquired. Private equity money is so keen on this segment. Even if you look at India, the Unicus has raised so much of money, 20 plus million. How do you see this market shaping up?
I'll give you an anecdote. A year back, we were helping an investment bank structure their own deal, right? So there was a bit of a sell-off by some of the investment bank minority partners to majority partners. And that concerned partner said that I'm slightly surprised why are tax firms not valued? Because you guys have a far more stable business compared to us, right? Our business can be erratic depending on the deal, but you can actually show a organic path, which itself is a good platform to invite a serious investor. And I said, yes, I'm absolutely right. I don't know why it's not happening, but we are actually seeing that happening overseas. So you have the BDOs, the GTs of the world in overseas countries being funded by private equity. You have a US backed tax firm known as Ryan, which is again owned by a private equity. You have something happening in Singapore more on the corporate secretarial side. You had this KNAV deal happening where Nikhil Kamath and etc. has invested something. And in the last 2 years, we ourselves would have got 3 offers, right? And I'm so glad we politely refused them because our value is just increasing every 6 months. But jokes apart, it will happen. The consolidation will happen, and that consolidation is going to happen outside the Big Four. The Big Four, due to a variety of reasons, that kind of monetization is going to be a bit of a challenge. You saw EY trying it globally; it failed due to the partnership lack of consensus. So you will see outside the Big Four this kind of a thing happening. And if you ask me, that's actually a bigger event than an AI, because what it will does is, it will give the right set of partnership, the right set of firm, the right set of money to say that now you can expand. You don't have to grow organically. You have the framework ready, right? Acquire a practice in Dubai. Why are you growing it organically? Acquire a practice in Bangalore. Why are you growing it organically? And import or export, sorry, your best practices to some of these firms. So I actually think that is on the cusp. You will actually see this more and more regular in an Indian context. And, we are very clear that if you want to become a 500 to 1,000 member firm, you can't grow organically. You'll be wasting a lot of time, right? So you have to prepare very quickly, become the right firm, and then be open-minded to, get in some investors, who'll be ready to help you in your journey.
Thank you so much, Vishal. Thank you so much for, giving us a perspective, answering everything so honestly.